The secret ingredient that makes Northwest food special is something you usually try not to eat. Great food requires great soil. And the Pacific Northwest has some of the best. But how'd that happen? We could start with the volcanoes, the megafloods, the giant earthworms, or the largest living thing on Earth. But if we're being honest, we should probably start billions of years ago in outer space. The main ingredient in just about any soil is rock. And every rock everywhere is made up of elements forged in the nuclear furnaces of ancient stars. Those elements come from nuclear fusion, which powers stars, until it doesn't. And the star collapses or explodes, or collapses then explodes. That all happened over and over and over again for literally billions of years until some of that stuff made the sun, and a tiny little bit left over made Earth. For a long time, Earth was just one giant rock, cooling out in space. And at some point, it started to rain. Paper doesn't beat rock. Weather does. Over millions of years, water dissolves rock's crystal structure, gets into cracks, freezes, warms, and breaks things up. Add wind and waves, and you have all you need to turn the most imposing rocks into gravel, sand, silt, and clay. But those aren't quite soil yet. For that, we need one more ingredient. The oldest fossil we have of a thing that lived on land is a fungus, tortubus. Using acid and force, fungus threads can break up rock, extract minerals, and trade them with plant roots for carbs. When anything dies on land, fungus is key to breaking it up, recycling nutrients to be available for the next generation. And that's it. Rock plus weather plus life equals soil. From that basic recipe, nature has made an astonishing variety of soils. Scientists recognize 12 major families of soil, and the Northwest is home to 10 of them. This is one of the most diverse soil regions on the planet. And for that, we can largely thank most of what would become Oregon was under the ocean until about 200 million years ago. As one plate slid under another, huge masses of volcanic rock scraped off and stuck to the edge of the continent, forming the bedrock for much of the region. But all that smushing and scraping generates a lot of commotion. This is a volcano. This, also a volcano. Volcano, 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 magma vent, giant hole in the ground that's also a volcano. There are a lot more, and these are just the young ones. Volcanoes have been coating the Northwest with ash and dust for tens of millions of years. That's soil, and it really adds up. When Mount Mazama blew almost 8,000 years ago, it released enough material to cover parts of the state 3 feet deep. Volcanic soil is full of the good stuff, like phosphorus, nitrogen, carbon, and other minerals that plants crave. But it doesn't stay put. When the ice sheets receded at the end of the last ice age, all that melted water had to go somewhere. For about 2,000 years, it flowed across the Northwest to the sea. These were massive floods. Imagine glaciers carrying boulders, cruising through the Columbia Gorge at 80 miles per hour. And where the water slowed and pooled, sediments built up. We never even talked about that time the Yellowstone hotspot covered half the state with lava, but the point is, those millions of years of cataclysms have left Oregon with incredibly diverse soils. Like Jory, weathered basalt high in iron and organic matter, great for wine grapes, hazelnuts, strawberries. But soil doesn't exist just to make us humans happy. It has its own life. There's the big stuff: moles, voles, pocket gophers, and the worms, earthworms, nematodes, and if you're very lucky, the Willamette giant earthworm. It can grow up to 4 feet long and an inch thick, and it smells like lilies. But it's only been spotted a handful of times ever. Zoom in further and you enter the realm of protozoa and bacteria and even viruses that all permeate the soil. And in healthy soil, everything is tied together by fungus. And those fungal threads are everywhere, trading with plant roots, digesting minerals, and providing food for a lot of creatures. Truffles, chanterelles, morels, you can thank mycorrhizal fungi for those. Which brings us to... Yep, it's a fungus, a honey mushroom. And it lives in Oregon, on about 4 square miles in the Blue Mountains. Scientists aren't certain, but they estimate it's thousands of years old, which means that the biggest and maybe oldest living thing on Earth lives in Oregon soil. Oregon's wealth isn't in the land or on the land. It is the land. It's the familiar foundation of just about everything we eat. And yet our soil contains mysteries as vast as the cosmos. So the next time you sit down to dine, you can thank that space rock, water-cracked, volcanic, fungal worm poop we call soil.
Hi, I'm Heather. I wrote and co-produced this episode with help from these folks. I also write Superabundant's weekly newsletter, where you can stay on top of the freshest food stories and recipes from the Pacific Northwest. Sign up for it now at opb.org/superabundant. We couldn't do any of this without the support of OPB members. Thank you.